Well, in this topic, we are going to discuss ecotourism, its advantages and disadvantages. But before discussing advantages and disadvantages of this ecotourism, we first will, in the next slide, we will try to find out the definition of the tourism. We will correlate this tourism with the ecotourism. Then going on, we will be able to understand the advantages and disadvantages of the ecotourism. Well, as we know that the people travel for sightseeing, they camp, they travel for fun, they travel for the adventure, there is a pilgrimage, they also travel for some medical reasons. With all these activities, they are all tourism related. Similarly, people travel for a taste of place and we call it a food tourism. There are some places which are very famous for a particular type of a food. Tourism is basically an activity for recreational or leisure activities of the people. There are several associated services with the tourism, which we are going to discuss later on. There are several types of tourism. We call it environmental tourism, there is historical tourism, there is ethnic tourism, there is cultural tourism, adventurous tourism, health tourism, religious tourism, music tourism, village tourism, wildlife tourism, etc. So when the definition of tourism, it varies from person to person. Basically, we have seen that there is no consensus concerning the definition of the tourism. Every institute defines this tourism differently. The first definition of tourism was made by Gayur in 1905. Later, United Nations World Tourism Organization, they have also defined this tourism. They say the tourism comprises the activities of persons traveling to and staying in places outside their usual environment for not more than one consecutive year for leisure, business and other purposes. Now, in between these years, a new phase of travel emerged. It was year 2010 when United Nations World Tourism Organization declared that the tourism industry is responsible for more than 5% of all global carbon emissions. The same organization estimated that the fastest growing sectors of the tourism industry are increasing by 20% to 34% every year. The World Economic Forum estimated that carbon emissions, they will double by the year 2035 if nothing is done to mitigate the problem. Now, so on and so forth. The sustainable tourism concept started to gain popularity as more and more travelers have become concerned about the carbon emissions. Well, a new concept in the tourism sector came into existence in order to preserve our planet. Basically, It is the concept to preserve the natural areas and environment of the destinations of travel. The impact should be minimal while providing a positive experience. Whenever we go to some destinations, their or impact in terms of what we eat, how much waste we generate at that place, and what is the mode of travel we have traveled to that destination. These are all basically they create a cumulative effect on the environment. The popularity of this kind of tourism, it showed increased awareness in people. Now you might have observed yourself that at the destinations, many tourists who visit the places, they try to avoid accumulation of this garbage. They do lot of activity. No doubt there is a lot of pollution, there is a lot of problems associated with these destinations, but still there are many people who are well aware of the conditions, well aware of the environment of that particular area. The people all around the world, they basically choose environment friendly trips. The tourism of such kind, it has been designated as the ecotourism, wherein the tourists, they keep into their mind the environment of the destinations. There are basically many definitions of this ecotourism or environmental tourism or ecological tourism, whatever you call, but the common and the most famous term is ecotourism. However, the International Ecotourism Society defines ecotourism as it's a responsible travel to natural areas that conserves the environment and improves the welfare of the local people. Now you see, it is talking of both the people of that existing place or destinations and the environment. Coming to the advantages and disadvantages of ecotourism. Although one of the ecotourism's main purposes is to conserve the environment of the destination, but it can have a detrimental effect instead. As we know, when the destination's popularity grows, you know what happens? Resources which are there sometimes become overused and natural attractions they suffer. The human visitors, mostly they disrupt this wildlife. They fill the site with garbage. They fill the air with automobile exhaust. Since many ecotourist destinations are in remote areas, definitely they require extensive air and vehicle travel, and that creates carbon footprints. And these activity ultimately results in the change to the destination habitat, and it also has its impact on the culture and economy of the destinations as well. Another idea behind ecotourism was to educate tourists about conservation efforts in fragile natural areas. These ecotourists gain knowledge of ecosystems, they gain knowledge of the biology and geology of the specific natural locations, which in turn informs their conservation efforts. Some of the money that goes into ecotourism also goes to conservation efforts. We do reforestation in the at the destination places. Some of the money is used in repopulating the endangered species. Through this ecotourism, as compared to normal, typical or tourism, where regular tourism efforts return about 20% of revenue to the local communities, through ecotourism, almost all the revenue generated by the ecotourism goes back into those communities. Well, precisely putting advantages of this ecotourism here, the first point which I have mentioned is ecotourism and the environment. This ecotourism, it helps protect natural habitats and pristine environments. As we know, the wealth of the poorer countries is mostly in the natural resources like forests, they have minerals, and they have land that could be used for the agriculture. Once they start exploiting these resources, what it means? It means that they are altering or they are destroying the habitats. They are destroying the beautiful natural landscapes. If we allow these places for this ecotourism or these countries for the ecotourism, this ecotourism can build their economies without harming the environment. Then they don't have to go for exploitation of the forests and minerals. They will earn through ecotourism, which means that the local biology or local wildlife, plants as well as animals, they can thrive and visitors can enjoy untouched destinations. This is one aspect of the advantage of ecotourism. Next is economic benefits. Local jobs are one of the main economic benefits which we get out of this ecotourism. This ecotourism, it allows them the opportunity to receive training in skills that can transfer to other areas of employment, and even nutrition when they receive meals at work. Whatever surplus income comes in their way, it allows these workers to just pass on this money to their community members who can start up their small businesses at their places. There is another one aspect that these eco-tourists, they buy local goods and that money can be used by the communities for the child care and other services. Another aspect as far as the economic benefits of the ecotourism is concerned, the ecotourism companies can also help give back to the community by offering training in useful skills. I think the most important aspect of ecotourism is benefit to the local communities. Then coming to third point, that is ecotourism and the travelers. Basically, the advantage that ecotourism offer travelers are personal, but their effects are widespread. Through visiting areas of this having this natural beauty, seeing animals in their native habitats, and meeting members of the local communities. Travelers basically can increase their awareness and they can increase their knowledge of the resources at these destinations. They can also understand the methods of conservation and how to avoid spread of the wastes. And I can see that they will be encouraged to live more sustainability at home, and they can also increase their understanding towards the other cultures. Additionally, these travelers, they can also learn how to help support other communities. It is not only by handing out free gifts like toys and stationery items to the people at these destinations, but by buying local produce and goods. And these ecotourists, they return home, they spread the message to their families and the friends. Well, coming to the discussion of disadvantages of the ecotourism. Ecotourism efforts certainly leads to the development. When natural areas become popular in the travel industry, they usually become the site of hotels and other activities. Construction of roads in between the forests. These are the common sites at these destinations. Basically what happens, these activities sometimes displace indigenous groups and local people from their homelands. Once the construction of hotels starts or huts they start, roads start, it leads to the loss of homelands to the people who are basically living there. It not only damages the integrity of those local communities, but it prevents its members from benefiting from the economic benefits. Instead of taking benefit out of this ecotourism, they are affected. The ecotourism related activities can also take a toll on surrounding habitat. Given that ecotourism aims to educate ecotourists and promote the conservation of natural habitats, as in the previous slide we have seen the benefits or advantages of the ecotourism, but for some species, the increased presence of humans may be default negatively impact their natural behaviors. These animals, they may not like the presence of the humans in their surroundings. Increased foot traffic can also affect soil quality and plant life in general, damaging the area's overall ecosystem. Finally, not all travel organizations that market themselves as environment-friendly tourism, but they claim that whatever trips we are taking to these destinations, we do environment-friendly trips. These organizations basically know ecotourism is growing in popularity and may take advantage of the fact they parade themselves as ecotourists or ecotourists. When in reality, if we see the reality, they ignore eco-friendly practices. This is another disadvantage of the ecotourism. Cultural exploitation and deterioration can result from this ecotourism. As towns grow to accommodate an influx of visitors, original residents often lose pasture and cropland. Instead of remaining in their traditional occupations, they are frequently forced to take low-paying service jobs in hotels, restaurants, and shops. Therefore, their culture practices can become fodder for tourists. erode the traditional importance and meaning of the people who are living at these places. These were some of the advantages and disadvantages of the ecotourism. Now all of you are informed that you can add more disadvantages and advantages which you have commonly observed at these places. Thank you all.